In this episode of Tequila Chats, we welcome Glennda Baker. She's an international real estate broker. She's been in the business for over 3 decades, and she's the most recognized face and voice in real estate video. Glennda, welcome to Tequila Chats, although today is going to be cider chats.
I know, I saw that. I saw that.
You know, it's a little bit too cold right now in Boston, so I think that the cider would do a little bit better than a glass of tequila.
It's our holiday.
It is, it really is.
You know, they say I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's shot of tequila.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, feel
That
free
actually applies to my life.
Yeah,
For
feel
real
free
it
to
does.
steal it. No
I
charge for
will.
that tip.
I totally will. Cheers to you. And thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and so it's wonderful to have you here in Boston, and it's great to have you here on Tequila Chats.
I'm so excited to be here.
So, Tequila Chats is just an easy conversation about business. I'm always very curious when I talk to very successful business people like yourself about their origin story. You know, I'm one who believes that, you know, your early experiences, your childhood experiences, your family, really define how do you approach life and then how you approach business. We know a lot about you because you are tremendously successful right now in kind of your business, but where does Glennda Baker come from? What are the origins of Glennda Baker?
You know, most people don't realize I was raised by a single mother. My mom was 44 when I was born.
Okay.
So, you know, you got to think about it. I was born in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, my mom was the oldest mother.
Yeah.
My mom was the only person that was divorced in my entire school.
Must have been unusual at that time.
Oh,
yeah.
very
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
And she would come to the school. People would think she was my grandmother.
Hmm.
And so it was definitely interesting as a child, but my mom always made me feel like I was a star. She always spoke to me like I was an adult.
Yeah.
So I never ever met a stranger. I could always carry on a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
But I think that watching my mom just survive
Mm-hmm.
really kind of ingrained in me this whatever it takes mentality.
Yes, yeah, the possibilities, right?
Yeah.
Because she obviously just took everything with a stride and then just kept going. And so,
Well, you got to keep in mind, my mom moved from Chattanooga to Atlanta in 1968. In 1968, she couldn't get a job because she had a child.
wow.
And they told her that.
Yes,
Like
yes.
they could tell you.
It wasn't like they were hiding it. It was an
Yeah,
actual
no.
thing, an
They're
actual
like,
fact.
yeah, you're great, but we're definitely not
Wow.
going to hire you because you have a small child.
Yeah,
That child gets sick, you'll be out.
yeah.
So my mom had interviewed for several jobs. She moved down here. We were living in a furnished apartment, $30 a week
Mm-hmm.
next to the Fox Theater. And my mom got a job. This man took a chance on her.
Yeah.
My mom worked for him his entire life.
Oh, really? Really?
And her entire life.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's what it, you know, because you are very tenacious and you just, you know, I watch you and I've known you now for a couple of years and I love your, you know, your spirit. You just go for it. And so that's where it comes from.
Thank you.
No, it's wonderful to hear that. It really is. And so let me ask you about real estate, because you've been doing this now for almost 30 years, right?
Since Jesus was a baby.
Exactly. I'm right behind you,
Like,
just so you know.
No lie, like 32 years.
Oh, really? Over 30?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Obviously, I started when I was 12.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And so why real estate? How do you find real estate? I'll tell you my story later, but curious about yours.
I designed and manufactured ladies' clothing.
Okay.
And the people were mean. Oh, my stars and stripes. I sent these beautiful clothes to this
Yeah.
store in New York. This man wrote me a bad check. I said, oh, sir, you know, I got this check back. It was returned. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, do you want to replace the check? You want me to redeposit it? He's like, yeah, I'm not going to pay for the clothes. I'm like, oh my goodness, is something wrong with the clothes? And he goes, no. He goes, but I'm not going to pay you for them. It was like a $400 check.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, sir, you do realize that you go to jail for stuff like that. He goes, are you going to come up here to New York and put me in jail? He goes, it's going to cost you more than the check.
That's crazy. That is
And I was like, did he really just say that to
Yeah.
me? So I called my mom and I said, Mommy, I said, you know, the people are so mean in this business. She goes, Pumpkin, you need to sell real estate. And I was like, you think?
She was right.
And she told me to go to real estate school. She paid for me to go to real estate school. And she said, I'll bet you that you will sell a house in 30 days.
Yeah.
And I never will forget, I'm in real estate school. And the teacher goes, and when you sell a $100,000 house, you make X percent. And I'm like, well, what do you make on Friday? Like, how much do you get paid on
Yes,
Friday?
yes, yes.
And she goes, no, this is a commission only job. You just get paid when you sell a house. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no.
I know.
That doesn't work for me because like I have a
Yes,
small
I need this
child.
now.
Like
Yes,
I need
yeah.
a
I
paycheck.
need this right now.
So I actually applied to be an assistant, and nobody would hire me to be an assistant.
But why?
I sat down with these 3 ladies, my first interview
This is in real estate.
in
the
real estate. I'm in class.
Yeah.
I'm getting my license. I found out I don't get a paycheck.
Yes.
I'm going to go be a licensed assistant.
Yeah.
This made perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And I sit down with these 3 ladies, and they're militant. And the middle one says, "You can stop." 5 minutes into the interview, "You can stop." I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "You are too bubbly. You would get on my
No way.
last nerve." And she goes, "You can leave now." And I was like, and I cried. I
Oh, I
got in
can
my
imagine.
car and I cried. And then the next day I went and I met with these 2 ladies, and I loved them.
Uh-huh.
It went great. They were so nice. The next day they called me.
They
She's
hire.
like, "Hey, Glennda, it's Irene." I'm like, "Hey, we loved you." I'm like, "I loved you guys too." She's, "We're definitely not hiring you."
Oh, I love that.
And I'm like, "Why?" And she goes,
Oh, she said that they didn't hire you.
she goes,
I just
no,
misheard
no.
them.
She goes, "We're definitely not going to hire you." And I
Again?
said, "Why?" And she goes, "'Cause you're not going to be an assistant for long, and we don't want to train our competition."
Are you kidding me?
And I'm like, I was in shock.
Those are different times too in real estate.
Oh,
I think that
yeah.
right now we're a little bit more collaborative and
Oh, yeah.
cooperative than,
Yeah.
than this story.
I mean, they didn't think a thing about telling me that. And then I had been reading a book, How to Develop a 6-Figure Income in Real Estate. I had told everybody that I knew that I was going to get my real estate license,
Yeah.
and did they want to buy or sell?
Mm-hmm.
And 5 people had agreed to list their house with me. So I went to the real estate Taj Mahal,
Yes.
the biggest real estate office in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the broker and I said, I'm in class to get my license. Nobody wants to hire me as an assistant. I
Yeah.
have 5 people that want to list their house with me. Would you hire me? And she goes, "How do you have 5 people?" I said, "I told everybody I knew. Did they
Yeah.
want to buy or sell?"
Yeah.
5 people said they would sell. And she goes, "You're hired."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it incredible? Well, first of all, how real estate really is about relationships. And I think
Yeah.
that gets lost, right? I think
Yeah,
that
100%.
our business has changed so much, and obviously the marketing strategy and what we do, everything, social media, whatever it is that you're doing is really important, but ultimately always goes back to the basics, right? And
Yeah.
from day one, like you experience, same thing with me in my business. It's just that answer your phone calls and checking hands, and that's how you really build it. It's really great to hear it from you as well.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. When I started in real estate, I started because I had a friend who used to be a VP at Coldbank. I always went with Coldbanker. And so he was a VP there. And for years, he would be like, "You'll be great at real estate." But my experience in real estate has been really bad, kind of like mediocre, I would say, in terms of my interfacing with
From a
professionals,
consumer's
from a consumer,
perspective.
yes. And so I was like, this is not a cool feel. Like, I don't want to
Right.
be part of this whole thing.
Right.
But he insisted. I was an actor. I had moved to LA to make it, and obviously it didn't go in that direction. And so I was like, I'm going to go back to Boston. And I called him and I said, "Okay, let's try now real estate." Because in my head, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to work there, do it for 1 year. I'm going to be rich, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to go back to LA and like finish my whole plan with LA." And here we are, 20 years later. First year, like everybody else, I think I made like $5,000 or $6,000 on the first year, maybe 7 on the second year. But I was like, this is going to be easy going. But it's been an incredible kind of like an incredible process. But let me ask you, because I know I personally have felt it at different times, and kind of like a different gut feeling. What was like when do you felt that first tipping point happen in your business? At what point was it an experience? Was it a listing? Was it a conversation? Because I'm always curious about that. How do you instinctively feel that your business is about to shift? And then once you felt the tipping point, what did you do with that?
So I had read this book, and it talked about farming.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any money to farm. I had this
Yeah.
little baby. And so I lived in an apartment. And so I would put my baby in the car.
Yeah.
And I would go to this fancy neighborhood. I had picked out 3 fancy neighborhoods. And I was like, I'm going to farm these
Yes.
neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And so I put my baby in the car. I'd go over to the clubhouse, I'd park my car, I'd get the stroller out, and I'd stroll the
Just do
baby,
the thing.
and I'd wave.
Yeah.
I'd wave to the neighbors, hey. And then I drove through and I like took a picture of every single house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I knew who owned it. I knew what it looked
Yeah.
like. I knew all the
You
specifics
did your research.
about
It wasn't just
Yeah.
cold. You knew what was happening.
And so then I started putting like illegally, because you know you're not supposed to put anything in the mailbox.
Mhm.
I would put these flyers in the
tell
mailbox when
anybody.
I would walk. And well, I'm sure that the statute of limitations has
At some
expired
point,
on,
let's hope there's
putting
one.
stuff in mail in mailboxes from
Let us hope there is one
1992.
right now.
But I would stroll Victoria and put stuff in people's mailbox. And this man called me and he's like, I live at 123 Banana Street. I got your flyer. I see you in the neighborhood every day.
Yeah.
He's like, I'd like to list my house with you. And in 1992, that house was $450,000. And I was like, oh my stars. But it was the ugliest house in the neighborhood. But I sold it.
Yeah.
I sold it for $425.
Yeah.
And so I kept on doing that. And they said, you know, go preview every house that's on the market. And so I would go preview every house. And you know, back in the olden days, you would call the seller.
Yeah.
Their name and phone number was in the MLS.
Yeah.
So I called and I said, you know, hello, Mrs. Seller. I'd like to, you know, preview your home. You know, I do a lot of business in this area. And I said, she goes, well, I can't leave. I'm expecting something. Oh, you don't have to leave.
Yeah.
And so I told her, I said, why don't you walk me through? Nobody knows your house better than you do. Here's my business card. She walked me through. She told me all about the house. The house expired. And she had my business card. She'd met me. She saw that I was enthusiastic about the product.
You were the first call she made.
I knew exactly who had built that house. I knew that it had the biggest ficus tree in a residential property. There was an article that had been written about this house. And so it expired, and that lady listed that house with me. It was think about this, 1992.
Yeah.
The house is $950,000.
That's amazing.
I was agent of the month.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
I got my license September the 4th.
Yeah.
And by December, I was agent of the month.
Wow.
And it was in that moment that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this.
Yes.
Like I can be successful at it. And I just kept on doing it and doing it and doing it.
So do you feel like you were born to do real estate? Like now in retrospect, when you think about it.
I think so, because to me, it's not even like work.
Yeah.
Like I never ever wake up and say, oh, I can't believe I have to do this. This day is going to suck. I hate these people. It's awful. I can't believe I have to go to my office. I never ever, I wake up every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. It's like, I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this. And like, really? I can't even believe I get paid to do it.
Yes.
And I'm just like, every morning, I'm laying in my bed every single morning. And I just lay there for a minute and I'm like, is this a dream?
Yeah.
Like, is this really my life? And I think, thank God for my mom and thank God that I'm where I am. And then I open my eyes just to make sure it's not a dream.
Yeah.
And when I look around and I'm in my dream home and it's not a dream, I'm like,
oh. I connect 100% with you. I feel like I was born to do it. I just didn't know until I found it. But it was, I've said it before, it was love at first sight.
Yeah.
Like I walked through it and I got that license and immediately I was like, okay, this is making sense.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the first appointment and then just falling in love with it. And I was like, I found myself and I found my people. I found my life. And just like you, I have every single day this feeling of you know, thankfulness, of gratitude because this business changed my life completely.
Yeah.
You know, my story is no different from most people. You know, I came in this country as an immigrant. I had $25 in my pocket, but real estate has given me so many opportunities, and it's really just helped redefine my life and be surrounded not only in terms of like material things, but also met some of the most amazing, interesting people, and have some of the best friends. And by the way, most of my best friends are all from real estate or part of real estate. So I owe a lot to it. It's a really extraordinary business.
And think about the consumers that you have saved from the 3-star experience that you received.
Exactly what I received.
Yeah.
I was afraid of it, and suddenly, but that was the motivation. I was going to ask you about your success, because for me, I had the worst experience. This can be done better. Of course, there's a chance to do it better. as you were building your business, um, how do you, and as you're conceptualizing what you wanted it to be, how would you defining your own success?
So I grew. I think I grew with my business. I grew in my maturity in life, but I also grew to understand like how to give the best service.
Yeah,
I grew how to accept um, feedback from clients,
yeah.
and I would probably say in 2017 I had the opportunity to meet Robin Mead.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Mead, the longest running female anchor on a national news
Mm-hmm.
channel. And I sat down with her husband. He interviewed me and 5 other agents.
Yeah,
And it was when he and Robin decided to work with me that I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can play bigger.
yes,
Like, and
yes,
I can do big things.
yeah,
Like I almost feel like that in my head, I was still that last kid picked on the
yes,
playground.
yes,
I was
yeah,
still that kid that barely graduated from high school. I was still that kid that didn't take the SAT test. So while I was successful in my career, I don't think that I dared to dream bigger
yeah,
until Robin and Tim like breathed that belief
yes,
into
yes,
me. And Robin referred Hines Ward to me. And when Hines, this football player, this MVP, this
yeah,
amazingly successful person, was like, I believe in you. Like
yeah,
you're great. You're
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
It was those words of affirmation, but it was really literally the belief from those people was
yeah,
tangible.
yes, yes,
And I look at my clients like Pat and Amanda, who bought their first home from me, who trusted me with their largest single asset.
yes,
Like these people believe in you
yes,
and they trust
yeah,
you.
they do, yes,
And I think that really like understanding that 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 I was that important
yes, yeah,
in someone's number one, their life, but
yeah,
number two, their finances.
yes, yeah,
It really hit home to me how success had not only helped me, but how it had impacted me.
I love that you have me thinking about this because and this, to be honest, this feeling never leaves me. I have this dance of like, uh, you know, I need to do better. Like, what could be next? But at the same time, there's glimpses come of like, I'm actually doing something that is truly significant to people. But I feel like that dance is what keeps me going, and that dance is what keeps in my head. The dance in my head
That's because
is what keeps me.
you're from Cali.
Hello, yes.
The best dancers in the
dance,
world
we
are from
dance for everything, yes. all
Cali
the time.
Bachanguera.
Pachanguero,
Yeah.
yes. Have
You
you danced
had no.
salsa?
Oh my gosh, I can.
Maybe we could show them a
Oh
little bit
my
of
gosh,
salsa.
I can dance like nobody's business.
Oh, let's do this.
Oh my stars and
We'll
stripes.
show you in a second. We're gonna how to do it. But going back to the conversation, this dance keeps me kind of like motivated, and keeps me also not only motivated, but keeps me creative. It keeps me rethinking how to continue to change the business for
Yeah.
my clients, and obviously for myself and for my team. Like I feel like I also have a responsibility for the team, and keep growing and keep making this business better for all of us. Uh, in your success, when you look at everything that you have done, which one do you feel is your most proud moment?
In 2021, I was able to buy my mom's dream home. So, as a little girl in this beat up Pontiac that didn't have air conditioning, we would drive down this street called Columns Drive, and it ran along the river, and it had all of these beautiful homes. And the neighborhood was Atlanta Country Club. My mom's boss was a member there. He lived on one side of the river, and Columns Drive was on the other side. And my mom would take me for a drive. And my mom would look up at this house and she would say, one day, Pumpkin, one day we're going to live in a house like that. And I mean, as a child, we're
Yeah.
like I didn't even know. I remember sitting at the red light and this lady's windows were up, and it gets hot as hell in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
yeah.
And her hair is blowing. And I'm like, Mommy, that lady's hair's blowing and her windows aren't even down. And she goes, oh, she has air
What kind
conditioning.
of magic is
So
that?
in my
Yeah.
head, I'm thinking to myself, we're in a car
Yeah.
that's beat up, that doesn't have air conditioning. And you're thinking we're going to live in that big ass house on the cliff,
Yeah.
this mansion.
Yeah.
And she's like, one day, Pumpkin, one day. And that house came on the market from the
That house
original
did.
owner. It'd never ever been on the market before. And the original owner's daughter, her parents had passed away.
Yeah.
She put it on the market, and my friends were like, Glennda, are you going to go see this house? It's because I had been looking in the neighborhood, and I'm like, and I didn't realize it was the house.
That was the house.
And so I'm like, no, like, did you look at the price? Like, that's not even my budget.
Yeah.
And my loan officer called me and he goes, hey, did you see that house come up? I think the house is perfect for you. And I'm like, Brian, I can't buy that house.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, yeah, you can. And I'm
You're
like,
like-
are you sure? He's like, yeah, no problem. And I went and looked at it, and I walk in the door and I look to the left and I realized the A-frame, it's a mid-century modern. I
Yeah.
realized the A-frame, and I walk out on the deck, and no lie, I'm looking down that road, and that is, I can see me and my mom.
That's your
and
memory right there.
I
Yeah.
can see us,
Yeah.
my hair flying out the window, driving
Yeah.
along that road.
Okay,
And I was just like, and we're in the height of like multiple offers
Yeah.
and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the list price. And I'm like, I make the offer.
Yeah.
And the agent comes back to me with the counter. And I said, Michael, I gave you my best offer. That is this most I can pay for the house.
Yeah.
And he comes back to me and he goes, they're going to take it. You're going to live in it, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like,
I
"They'll sell
love
to you."
that.
And
Bravo.
it just, like, to me, it was like every dream
Yeah.
that could have ever been dreamed for me
Yeah.
had come to fruition.
Yeah.
And so I knew right there in that moment, I was like, this is it.
This is it. Yes.
Like, this
All of
is
this
really
happened for
my
this
life.
one moment.
Yeah. And it was in that moment
Yeah.
that I was just like,
Yeah.
I
This is
made
why
it.
you're doing this. Yeah.
I lived through everything and I made it.
Yeah. What do your mom think of that?
You know, my mother passed away back
Oh.
many years ago. Because remember, she was 44.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So my mother passed away about 27 years ago. But do you know what? It's like in that house, like it's like
Her spirit is there.
it's like
yeah.
she's
Yeah,
sitting
she's
there. I have these white chairs in that family room, and every time I sit in one, it's almost like she's sitting right there with me.
Yeah.
And I have my coffee, and there isn't any place I move in that house
Yeah.
that she's not there with me.
Yeah. This is beautiful. I don't know what else to tell you. It's just amazing. It's the most. Yeah. It's just
You had no
incredible.
idea what you
No,
were
I
getting
love it.
yourself
No, but this is
into.
incredible. You know, I do have like similar experience with my mom. We were able to to help my mom buy her home in Florida, and that to me as well is
Yeah.
it's the most proud, or one of the most proud moments
Yeah.
in my life, not just in my career but in my life. It really
Yeah.
is amazing. Yeah.
Because you
What it
look
means.
back.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
look, I mean, especially like you came here as an immigrant
Yeah.
with $25.
Yeah.
You look back and you're like,
All we've done. Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
and it
Everything
just-
that's happened.
and a lot of times people don't realize,
Yeah.
they take for granted that they're living in the moment
Yeah.
of the moments that they wished for.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. The other thing that it reminds me always is how, despite whatever is happening politically, how extraordinary this, from my experience, how extraordinary, and from yours as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at your how extraordinary this country is,
Oh, yeah.
right? And it really is the only country, I think, where those kinds of stories happen
Yeah.
more than they do not. And it's a testament of this country and the people in this country
And the opportunity.
and the opportunity that it provides. Yes.
Yeah,
And
if
how it
you're just-
embraces.
if
how
you're
war can-
willing to seize
Yeah.
the opportunity,
Yeah.
it's there for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime that somebody, and I probably don't have I have very little tolerance for, I can't do this,
Mhm.
or, I don't want to work that hard, or, I like in my head, like I can't even understand that
Yeah.
thought process, because you're willing to quit your job as a real estate agent because it's too hard, yet you're going to go work
Yeah.
8 hours to
Mhm.
build
Yeah.
somebody else's
Yeah. Yeah.
dream.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in my head, like on what planet are
Yes.
you thinking clearly?
Plus, everything is going to be hard at some point.
Yeah.
This idea that everything is going to be easy and rosy, we know it's not
Yeah.
true. It's not,
Yeah, but
doesn't
it's
happen in
so
that.
much sweeter
When you're doing
like
it for yourself
when
and
you're
with the people that you love.
and when
Yeah.
you achieve it.
Yeah.
Like when it was so hard
Yeah.
and you climbed the mountain and you made it,
Yes.
and it's almost like you're standing up there and
Yeah.
you're like Rocky.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You made it, you
Yeah.
know?
And when you're looking how much farther you can go or what
Yeah.
other mountain you can climb, I think is
Yeah.
extraordinary. It's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah.
But let me ask you about the opposite side of success, which is failure.
Yeah.
And we all had it as part of
Yeah.
the process. What have you learned from your failures, from your business failures?
You know, Ricardo, I have to say, you know, I have been married, I have been divorced, and you know, I think of all the things that probably make me, you know, think about the choices that I've made, it would be that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I never ever look back with regret. I look
Mhm.
forward with reflection.
Hmm.
I learned so much from some of the worst failures of my life.
Yeah.
I learned far more from my failures
Yeah.
than I learned from my successes.
Yeah.
You know, as a real estate agent, as a new real estate agent, you're making a lot of money, you're
Mhm.
spending a lot of money, you're celebrating a lot of
Yeah.
money. And, you know, I remember when I couldn't make my rent payment, I couldn't make my car payment
Oh yeah.
because I had celebrated when I listed it, I had celebrated it when it went under contract, and
Yeah.
I celebrated when it sold.
Yeah.
I didn't think about paying taxes. That was never,
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. And so, you know, I definitely have learned more in the failures
Yeah.
than I have in the successes, but nothing more significant to me than ultimately you are the person that controls your destiny.
Yeah.
And the road is paved with dead squirrels that fail to make a decision.
That's true.
The longer that you stay
Yeah.
in that indecision,
Yeah.
in that bad situation,
Yeah.
the more likely you are to be roadkill.
Yes, it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
So to me, I think that, you know, acknowledging that you've made the mistake or acknowledging that
Yeah.
wherever you are is maybe not the right place for you.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily it's a failure.
Yes.
It's more of a redirection.
Yes,
I always
exactly.
look at it like I was spared or prepared,
Yeah.
you know, and I keep moving. And somebody asked me yesterday, what do you do when you fail or when you have a setback? And the first thing that I do is I look to my children.
Mhm.
Those are my greatest successes.
Yeah.
My children, you know, and especially in the marriages that have failed,
Mhm.
it's very easy to look at my children and say, you know what, they weren't. If I had to
Yeah.
take every bad step
Yeah.
to get to have those two kids, that is better than anything.
Than anything else, yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I've been very fortunate. I have bonus children, stepchildren that, you know, are like my kids, and
Yeah.
I just I've been so blessed even in the worst situations.
Yes. I absolutely agree with you. I think that the biggest, for me at least, and I've learned this, biggest failures that I made is not acting on those things that I perceived as failures themselves.
Yeah.
Am I making any
Yeah,
sense?
100%.
Yeah, like literally just something happened and then just kind of like believing that that was it is one of the biggest mistakes, failures that I've made in my life and in my career. Is
Yeah.
just keep moving and adapting and shifting and getting it done
Yeah.
ultimately. So now let me ask you this question, which is our last question of this conversation. By the way, I've been really enjoying talking to you. It's been so
I
wonderful.
hope so.
No, it's fabulous. You've been fabulous. But what do you think is the key to success? If you could share that, if you were like, okay, if I'm gonna give you one piece of advice into how to build your business, what do you think is that key to someone's success or to your success?
Don't be afraid to be different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many people are trying to reinvent the wheel, but the same wheel. They're
Mhm.
trying to be like you. They're trying to be like me.
Yeah.
They look and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I can just rip their head off and put my head on and I'll be as successful as they are.
Yeah.
And I've got news for you. Being you and being true to yourself, being authentically you, living a bold life and living in your own genius
Yeah.
is much better than trying to emulate or imitate someone that you're not.
Yeah.
So I would say my biggest and best piece of advice that I would give to somebody is, number one, don't be afraid to be bold and be yourself. Don't be afraid to be different.
Yeah.
And the best math that you can learn is the future cost of your current decision.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Glennda, thank you very much. This was a wonderful conversation. You really are incredible.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that you guys realize why she is so wonderful and so beloved. And so, should we show them how to dance some?
I don't know.
Let's
if
do
you got
this.
if you got some Kali Bachangera,
Let's get it on.
that's right, because we've got Apple Music.
Come on, let's get this going.
Oh my Lord! And look, typical Colombian. Yeah, vamos a bailar.
Vamos a
Right.
bailar,
I
of
love
course.
it. I love it. I love it.
You too there. I love it. Should we do a
Yeah,
little
no,
intro?
yeah.
Oh my God, look at it. Look at that. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you
You
very
had
much.
no idea.
I love it.
I bet you haven't had anybody on Tequila
No,
Talks
that
that dance.
dances. No one does. They drink, but that's about it. I hope you liked this conversation as much as I did. I would love to hear from you, so please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next week in the next episode of Tequila Chats. Salud.